24th meeting to order, and we'll have the pledge. Tim, you want to lead us in the pledge, please?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Well, welcome, everybody. We have a couple proclamations to begin the meeting, and I would ask Mr. Landis, you want to come up to the podium? So we might want to come out here where we can get in front. You can face the camera over here, if you will. Glad to have you here today. This is National Volunteer Week. It was established in 1974 and has drawn endorsement from all U.S. presidents since then, as well as governors, mayors, and elected officials. Our city is not only proud to continue this tradition, but we celebrate the fact that all throughout the year, volunteerism is a form of strategy, partnership, and citizen engagement. And I have this proclamation for you. If you will hold on just a second, read this. Whereas the entire community can inspire, equip, and mobilize people to take action that changes our communities, our nation, and our world. And whereas volunteers, National Service Corps members, corporate citizens, and social entrepreneurs connect with local service opportunities through service, organizations, and local governments. And whereas individuals and communities are at the center of social action, discovering their power to make a difference and true impact. And whereas during this week, all over the nation, citizens are recognized for their continued commitment to service, and experience teaches us that government by itself cannot solve all of our nation's problems, whereas our country's volunteer force of over 63 million is a great treasure, and whereas the City of Dublin's active volunteer force is a tremendous point of pride that makes a positive social and economic impact on our community, and whereas volunteer engagement is a vital partnership and valued citizen relationship, now therefore I, Michael Keenan, Mayor of Dublin, on behalf of Dublin City Council, do hereby proclaim April 6th through 12th, 2014 as National Volunteer Week. So congratulations. Thank you. You want to say a few words?
I'd just like to say thank you on behalf of all the CSOs. We're proud to be from Dublin and work with Dublin, and proud to help support the police department. If you only knew what all they do, and the concern they have for us and how they've helped us. We're proud to be from Dublin.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And now we have the Presidential Service Awards, and I'd ask the Chief Von Exberg and Corporal Kiefer, if you'd join me up here. Thank you. On behalf of Dublin City Council, it's my pleasure to award a most prestigious award, the President's Volunteer Service Award, to our first team of community service officers. The City of Dublin is a certifying agency for these awards on behalf of the President's Council on Social Service and Civic Participation. We are honored to recognize you with these service pins and letters and certificates signed by the President of the United States. And if each of you will come up one at a time as I call your name. We have Kevin Cooper. Kevin. Molly Freeze. You know, if you can just stay up there, we're going to get a photograph. Congratulations. Debbie Giddings. Thank you. Congratulations. Douglas Harriman. Doug, congratulations. Yep, appreciate that. Brian Landis. Michael Sams. Thank you for your service. Yeah. Joe Sanderlin. Thank you, Joe. Abdul Sawa. Abdul, congratulations. Becky Saylor. Hey, Becky. And not able to join us tonight is Elisa Trippi. So please join us in congratulating This team, who were chosen in a highly selective process and are trained to be an extra reach and support for our officers. Every vacation house check you do, each theft prevention notice you deliver, and every special event for which you stand in service, we thank you for setting the bar so high in this first year and for being our all-around eyes and ears for our community's safety and well-being. It is indeed a terrific example of how service and volunteerism can have an impact. Thank you all. Appreciate it. Okay, this will bring us to the portion of the program for citizen comments. Mr. Maurer, I see you've signed up.
You know, I actually don't have anything to say tonight at this juncture.
Okay, so I also see we have a, I'm sorry, help me out here, Ann Rosen? Rosen? Welcome.
Good evening,
Evening.
dear council members, and it's a pleasure for me to come here to present Shenyun Performing Arts to councils here and everybody in the audience. My name is Rose Zhang, and I'm a volunteer for Ohio Falun Dafa Association. And Erjin Chen, who joins me tonight, is also a volunteer for Ohio Falun Dafa Association. We're the local host of this New York-based performing arts show. And Shenyun Performing Arts is based in New York, and they tour around the world every year with brand new shows, and their mission is to revive the 5,000 years old traditional Chinese culture. So that's why they bring to the world brand new shows every season, and they go to over 100 cities every year, presenting to the world live orchestra and handmade costumes and classical Chinese dance. So classical Chinese dance is a very rich and comprehensive dance system that spans throughout dynasties in Chinese history. You know, China has 5,000 years old recorded history and civilization. So Chinese dance in particular by itself has a very, very, lots of difficult tumbling techniques and a very comprehensive system by itself. So over 40 dancers, have you got it up?
Okay, yes, I can.
We need to watch a very short clip. Okay, it's a very, very brief preview of the show. And later on, if we still have time, we'll have 5 minutes tonight. So if we have still have time, I'm going to show you a little bit more. So over 40 dancers and singers dressed in handmade costumes and demonstrate or display amazing tumbling and techniques, and also they are story-based. Because 5,000 years of civilization, there's so many stories and legends and folk tales to tell. So that's why every year they bring brand new shows, and they have story-based, and that also tell us different aspects of Chinese history, Chinese civilization, and human civilization in a way, because China is the only ancient civilization in the world that has continuously recorded history of 5,000 years old ancient civilization. So there are many other ancient civilizations in the world, but China is unique in this way because it's the only one that has continuously recorded civilization. So that's very unique. And the Shenyu's costumes are also very unique. They're handmade, and they're recreated and newly designed every year for every season. So, and they combines the harmonic balance and contrast, cover almost all the color palette. And also they display different characters from heavenly beings all the way down to like the world, like ordinary people like me. And also they showcase different dynasties, different characters in history, legendary characters, and many of them are real characters in Chinese history. So, okay. And the backdrops are also very unique. It's digitized backdrops, and they are very vividly animated backdrops, and they extend the stage and transporting the audience to a world where heaven and earth are one. So it feels so real. So it's like bringing history alive to us on the big drop of a big stage at Ohio Theater. So you're going to see actions moving on the backdrops and stories happening on the backdrops, and then they come alive on the stage. They're very well synchronized with the live orchestra, and the live orchestra is also very unique. It blends the classical instruments with a full Western orchestra. So it's very, very unique show. Okay, I'm running out of time. So thank you very much for listening to me tonight. Thank you for having us tonight. Thank you.
Well, thank you. That sounds like a wonderful program. We've embraced the international community. It's always been a council core value, and we have a lot of examples of doing that really across the world. So thank you for your presentation, and we'll look forward to perhaps seeing the
Thank you very much. And by the way, I forgot to tell, both Arjun and I, both are Dublin residents. We're both school teachers, so it's a pleasure for us tonight. Thank you.
We're glad to have you here. Thank you. Mr. Vogel, Roger Vogel.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and council members. I wanted to show up tonight to prove the fact they hadn't lynched me yet. The neighborhood association, we're still there, and so far, so good. I'm Roger Vogel, 177 Longview Drive. We introduced ourselves a month ago as the Mid-Century Dublin Neighbors Association. I wanted to thank publicly the Dublin staff members who met with us on March 3rd. We had some of our questions and concerns answered at that meeting. We look forward to continuing to work with Dublin City Council and staff to upgrade and improve our great neighborhood, which I remind you, just a half a mile from downtown, 75 homes there of the mid-century nature. Three matters that we've been discussing and continue to work on are the introduction of the adult family home in our neighborhood, the upgrading of our streets, and the completion of the multi-use path from historic Dublin to Rings Road. Out of necessity, our efforts of late have been focused on the issue of the adult family home. This is for two reasons. Through our research, we found that in an interview in Columbus Business First, dated September 27, 2013, the owner of the company that's putting a home in our neighborhood was asked about his plans for 2014. He said, quote, "We will triple our locations in Central Ohio in 2014. And keep in mind, he already owned 8 properties in Franklin County at the end of 2013. So that means if he hits his goal, he plans to have 24 of these homes in this area by the end of this year. Secondly, we became aware that this same owner was trying to buy another home on Longview Drive, this time under an alias. Fortunately for us, he was recognized, and we have been working with that widowed owner now to try to help her to sell her home because she did not really want to sell to this particular owner. Clearly, this man is aggressively targeting our area, but I also remind you that according to your legal staff, these homes can go into any neighborhood in Ohio. So we clearly and eagerly look forward to the ordinance that your legal department is writing and will submit to Planning and Zoning on April 3rd. We're doing all we can to preserve our neighborhood. However, we need this city ordinance as soon as possible to try to limit the density of these homes. I recently had a very pleasant, and I might say providential, interaction with a Dublin police officer. He was taking an accident report where I was not at fault, I was rear-ended, but he saw my license and saw my address, and he said to me as he finished his report, "I understand they're putting a group home on your street." I was a little taken back, and he proceeded to tell me that on March the 2nd, they had received 2 police calls within 2 hours to the 2 adult homes already operating in Dublin, one on Tonty Drive and one on Avery Road. But what really bothered me was his next statement. He said to me, "Until we received these calls, we had no idea there was this type of home operating in Dublin." That was a police officer here in Dublin. I sincerely hope for the protection and safety of the residents of these homes that this lack of information has been remedied. Since there are going to be these homes in Dublin, there needs to be some mechanism whereby the owner-operator would inform and work with the appropriate agencies so that everyone is aware and ready to respond to the situations that arise. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Vogel. Gene, Steve, do you want to weigh in on this, please?
Well, the only thing I'll weigh in on is that we will have the ordinance before P&Z, and it's our expectation the ordinance will be back in front of this council on the first meeting in April, which I believe is April.
Yeah, 14, isn't it?
April 3rd is when it's going to P&Z. We expect it to be back in front of council from referral from P&Z on the 14th, if all goes well at P&Z.
Very good. Thank you,
But,
Marley.
Mr. Smith, if you might clarify, what is the ordinance going to be?
Well, the ordinance is addressing the only thing we can address,
Right.
and that's the dispersal. And the dispersal, it simply means how close can they be to each other. And 1,000 feet apart has been stricken down by the courts in Ohio. 500 feet has made the test, which would probably be, if you have a 40-foot lot, it'd be 12, 13 homes away. But that is the only thing under state law that we can regulate. In terms of the issue with the police officer not knowing that, I discussed it with the chief, he's aware of that, and people have been informed.
Well, to be clear, is there a requirement that they report into
No.
this? There's no requirement.
No, there's no requirement at all.
Yeah, so-
It's just like getting a residential
That's right.
building
Yeah,
permit.
it's no different.
That's right.
It's no
So
different than,
they're-
the state law does not, require them to register that they have a group home or an adult home or group home, whatever that's, it's very clear that they have these rights. And the way we found out originally was an inspector went, when the plans came in, an inspector said, geez, you're adding a lot of rooms, and that's how we found out.
Okay.
But I guess, I just would want to comment that the group homes, of course, have been around for years, and they may not have been in Dublin, and these are adult homes, as I understand it.
That's correct.
And they are owned by the same owners, and the one on Tonty Drive, I wasn't familiar with the Avery Road one, but the Tonty Drive one, all of us have been aware of that, so I'm not sure why the police officer wasn't, but traditionally, when group homes are going into communities, it is recommended that the community and the group home operator meet and talk about, so that the neighborhoods can become educated about who the clients are that are going to be living in there, and they can become comfortable with who's going to be there and how they might have an interaction that is positive rather than a negative interaction. So I would certainly encourage you to contact the owner and, you know, offer to meet with them if you haven't already done so.
Can I respond?
Just briefly, please.
Yes, we did have a meeting with this owner way back before we came here, and we felt like we had a good understanding. And then the next thing we hear from him is he's trying to buy another house on our street, and our street's only 1,500 feet long. I would just say that I think somebody needs to reach out to these owners and just say, please, work with us. And here in Dublin, we want to be good neighbors, but we need to know what the needs are going to be of these places and possible calls and so forth. And my other question is about Montgomery County. Are you aware of the suit down there that
I know that in the Cincinnati area, that's in the Cincinnati court, I know all about that case, and I've talked to the lawyers on it. And
I thought the judge had set 750 for a limit for a year for him.
I've not seen the 750. I've seen the 500 and the 1,000. We're going to do everything we can, but we're not going to pass an ordinance that we know it's going to get,
Right. No, I understand
that's going to be attacked and we're going to lose.
And we can carry this on later and.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you. Okay, brings us to the consent agenda. Any council member have any item they'd like to remove? Hearing none, so motion to approve.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Ann?
Mr. Reiner?
Yes.
Mayor Keenan?
Yes.
Ms. Janice Zerker?
Yes.
Mr. Peterson? Vice Mayor Gerber?
Yes.
Mr. Lechleiter?
Yes.
Ordinance 19-14.
Authorizing execution of an extension of the employment agreement with the city manager, declaring an emergency.
Introduction.
I'll introduce it.
Thank you. Staff report, Steve?
Yes, Council and Mr. Mayor, this is an extension of Marcia's contract. Her contract expired December 31st, so it is our recommendation this evening that you dispense with the public hearing and treat this matter as an emergency so we can be legal with her working here. Thank you.
I think we're all very familiar with this. We've been working on this for some time. Is there a motion to dispense with the public hearing?
So moved.
It's
Second.
emergency.
Emergency, yeah.
Ms. Janice Zerker?
Yes.
Mr. Reiner?
Yes.
Mr. Lechleiter?
Yes.
Mr. Peterson? Mayor Keenan?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Gerber?
Yes.
And on the motion?
Mr. Lechleiter?
Yes.
Mr. Peterson? Mayor Keenan? Vice
Yes.
Mayor Gerber?
Yes.
Mr. Reiner?
Yes.
And Ms. Janice Zerker?
Yes.
Very good, thank you. Ordinance 20-14.
Authorizing the execution of the City of Dublin, Dublin City School District, Bridge Street District Cooperative Agreement.
I'll introduce it.
Marcia?
Yeah, as stated, this ordinance authorizes the execution of the Bridge Street Cooperative Agreement between the City of Dublin and the Dublin City School District. General comments, as council's aware, the primary goal for implementing the Bridge Street District is to help ensure the city's long-term economic competitiveness. The Bridge Street District will provide a denser mixed-use walkable area that will enhance the city's ability to attract and retain young talent for our existing companies and companies that may be looking to locate in Dublin. And you recently saw at the State of the City the videos that were prepared by several of our companies in Dublin. In order to support this type of development, a significant investment in infrastructure improvements are required. And as we've discussed early on and throughout the process, the city and the school district both understand that in order to implement the Bridge Street District vision, the use of certain incentives to help offset the cost of the district's development types and needed public infrastructure required to serve the district, that a cooperative agreement between the city and the school district would be needed. As far as discussions with the school district, over the past year, we've had very good discussions with representatives from the Dublin City School District. We appreciate their time that they have dedicated to finding a solution that will meet the needs for both the city and the school district and provide for the implementation of the Bridge Street District. The proposed cooperative agreement provides the terms such that each party's needs are addressed. I would like to thank Superintendent Todd Hoadley, Treasurer Steve Osborne, and the Board of Education, specifically President Lynn May, who is here this evening, and Stu Harris for all of their efforts over the past year and their willingness to look at options and potential terms that will result in an agreement between the two of us. As far as the key terms of the agreement, first of all, it's important to note that the cooperative agreement covers the entire Bridge Street District. And beginning in 2014, the city will have the ability to establish tax incentive districts, including tax increment financing districts. These agreements will provide for the following. For years 1 through 15, the city will retain 100% of the real property revenue or payments in lieu of property taxes and use those dollars to invest in the infrastructure improvements necessary to implement the Bridge Street vision. For years 16 through 30, the city will remit to the school district 10% of the real property tax revenues the school district would have received had the incentive districts not been established, and the remaining 90% will be retained by the city to utilize for investment in the infrastructure improvements that are necessary. As consideration for the school district's approval of the real property tax exemption, the city has agreed for each year from 2014 to 2045 for a period of 32 years to make a payment to the school district in the amount of $1.5 million, and in the year 2046 to make a payment in the amount of $2 million for a total of $50 million over a 33-year period. This new revenue stream, which will occur immediately in 2014, will allow the school district to focus on and enhance their educational technology needs. As consideration for the city's agreement to make these payments described, the school district has agreed that until December of 2046, the city may pass legislation from time to time establishing these real property-based tax exemptions or TIF districts having a similar result to exempt 100% of the private improvement made from the real property for a period of 30 years. Also, except for the previously described payments, the school district would not receive any other compensation from the city. The school district would also waive their right to any additional notifications for the passage of legislation to set up any of the TIF districts or incentive districts throughout the 30-year period. And it will the school district will not contest any application for real property exemption or not seek to increase the base value for any parcel. And during the term of these agreements, the school district would continue to receive the current tax dollars, real estate tax dollars that they're receiving today. As you're aware, there are some restrictions that we have with regard to the Ohio Constitution that states that the city's annual payments to the school district cannot exceed the revenue that the school district would have received had the TIF districts or other incentive districts not been put in place. As a result, we have several thresholds or safeguards that have been included in the agreement that provides protection for the city. The first one is that by October 31st, 2016, we need to have investment by the private industry in the amount of $70 million, and that's based upon a calculation to determine the $70 million would provide for $1.5 million to the school district based upon their current millage that they have in place. And then for the years 2016 through 2046, a compensation variance as described in the cooperative agreement would be determined, and if necessary, any adjustments made to the next annual payment. And again, that's basically to ensure that we don't pay any more money to the school district in the annual payments and the 10% payment that we'll make from the incentive districts than the district would have received if those districts had not been put into place. Some time frames. The cooperative agreement was discussed last Thursday evening at the school board's meeting and is scheduled for legislation at their meeting on April 14th. And our second reading of Ordinance 2014 will also be scheduled for April 14th. In addition to the representatives from the school district, I would like to thank city staff members Angel Mumma and Terry Fogler, and then Chris Franzman from Squire Sanders Dempsey, our bond counsel, for all their efforts in drafting the agreements and working through the terms of the agreement, and also to Sue Burness from Community Relations and Doug Baker from the school district for their communications efforts. Again, this is, as we stated, the first piece in allowing for the implementation of the Bridge Street District and the necessary infrastructure improvements to support the vision of Bridge Street, and we'd be very happy to answer any questions or address any concerns that council may have.
Thank you, Marcia. This has been quite a project, and it's extremely important to the success of the Bridge Street corridor that we've all worked so hard on. I see Lynn May, President of the Board of Education, is here in the audience, and I know Rick wanted, he's worked with you and staff and your board, and he wanted to say a few words.
Yeah, and Lynn, I just want to say thank you. I think we started meeting about 10 months ago on this, and you and I, and actually Stu Harris as well, and we had a lot of some interesting talks and then some very productive talks. And I just want to say thank you so much for your professionalism and working with us. It typifies the partnerships that we have between the city and the schools. And I just want to say thank you publicly.
Thank you, Lynn. Good to see you and appreciate you coming out tonight. Council, any questions on 20-14? Anybody? There's no public testimony. The second reading of this will be on April 14th, as Marcia
correct.
indicated, and we'll look forward to that all being done at the same time then. Thank you. Resolution 18-14.
Appointing members to the various boards and commissions of the City of Dublin.
Introduction? Mr. Gerber? Administrative Chair report?
Yes, thank you. I think I have the wrong agenda here, so bear with me here a second.
I thought I had one here somewhere.
Okay.
You got it?
Yeah, I do. Thank you. I got it. That's too much paper. I got it. Thank you. As we know, annually we have various board and commission members who are up for reappointment or there are vacancies. And the administrative committee spent a very lengthy process of interviewing over 20 applicants for some vacancies. And the talent pool was just absolutely fantastic. It's always difficult to make these picks. You can pick one of them and be as good as the ones we did choose. So with that all said, I'll read the resolution with respect to the people that we are appointing, and starting with Section 1, we are appointing Amy Cram is hereby reappointed to a 4-year term on the Planning and Zoning Commission. Roger Eastup is hereby appointed to a 4-year term on the Planning and Zoning Commission, such term expiring on March 31st, 2018. Brian Gounod is hereby reappointed to a 3-year term on the Board of Zoning Appeals. Thomas Munhall is hereby reappointed to a 3-year term on the Architectural Review Board. Section 4, Marilyn Baker, Ann Bowman, Warren Fishman, Stephanie Hall, and Kelly Lynn are hereby appointed to 3-year terms on the Community Services Advisory Commission. Jim Renard is hereby appointed to a 3-year term on the Personnel Board of Review. Laura Colwell is appointed to a 3-year term on the Records Commission. Deborah Graham Gibson is reappointed to a 2-year term on the Dublin Arts Council. That's all the folks.
So that is, that's a motion?
It's the resolution, so yeah, it is a motion.
We need a second. Any other comment, any other council input? Ann?
Ms. Genesee Zerger? No. Vice Mayor Gerber?
Yes.
Mr. Peterson? Yes. I'm sorry, Mr. Lechleiter?
Yes.
Mayor Keenan?
Yes.
Mr. Reiner?
Yes.
All right, thank you, everybody, for all the effort on that. Resolution 19-14.
Approving the mayor's appointment of magistrates for Dublin Mayor's Court and authorizing execution of contracts for magistrate services.
Introduction?
I'll introduce it.
Vice Mayor Gerber?
Yes. Motion to approve reappointment of Joel R. Campbell as a primary magistrate.
Requirements for buying beer at the Dublin Irish Festival. We purchased from Superior Beverage, the distributor that is allowed to sell our 2 sponsored products, which are the Killian's Irish Red and Guinness Stout at the Irish Festival.
Very good. Council, any questions? Mr. Maurer, I see you've signed up for this.
I don't know if I missed what I want to hear, or what I'm concerned about here. What has been the rationale for waiving competitive bidding requirements?
They are the only, by state law, only one distributor in an area in the state of Ohio is allowed to sell one type of beer product, and because they are the only one that can sell our sponsored products.
Who's they?
Superior Beverage.
Oh, they're the ones that are hired.
It's the exclusive distributor.
Yeah, I
Okay.
have no personal interest in it.
Thank you. What do we need to do on this? Vote? Ann?
Mayor Keenan,
Yes.
Mr. Reiner.
Yes.
Ms. Janice Zerker.
Yes.
Mr. Lucklider.
Yes.
Mr. Peterson, Vice Mayor Gerber.
Yes.
Thank you. Resolution 21-14.
Authorizing the city manager to execute an amended ground lease with New Era Golf Ohio GCD Inc. related to the Golf Club of Dublin, extending the term of the current lease agreement.
I'll introduce it.
Thank you. Mr. Smith?
Thank you. 12 years ago, we opened our golf course. It's kind of hard to believe, but as you know, over the past number of years, there's been, golf course have been taken back by GE Credit, who was the financier on the course. And tonight, we have the opportunity, and it is the recommendation of staff, to enter into a lease agreement with New Era Golf to run the club for us. They are a locally owned entity, and they, as in the memo supports, they operate many very similar golf courses, Bentry, Royal American, et cetera. And another advantage to us, beside having them locally, the fact that they operate it, is that the debt on the lease, because we own the underlying ground, was originally $8.5 million, and the debt on this lease will be $1.9 million. So we feel very good about the financial structure that this entity will have to deal with. And we've checked all the references, we've discussed issues around the course, some council raised some issues with them, and it is our recommendation. As you see, they do, as I mentioned, Royal American Bentry, they also do New Albany Links course. And very in Glen Ross, which is the old Delaware course up on Route 23. One of the principals, as noted in here, is Mr. Romanelli, who is not here this evening. He was unable to come, but checked all the references. We think it's a good arrangement, and we're waiting on their financing to be approved. And I spoke with their lawyer on Friday about it, and they're 99.9% sure the financing will go through. So staff's recommendation that you approve this evening. Thank you.
Thank you. This individual, we've all had a chance to review this lease. This is a solid operator. They are doing significant work to the course, and as I understand it, they're going to put all new carts in and really do some upgrades, so that's all.
That's
good
correct.
stuff.
And they're also going to do some work at the clubhouse.
Very good. Council, questions?
Yeah, I have one. I mean,
Yes,
you
sir.
said financing, Steve, so are we approving this conditioned upon them getting?
Yes, sir. The last paragraph, whereas this resolution accompanying agreement should be contingent upon the securing of financing.
Okay.
Very good.
I see the resolution. Okay, thank you.
Mr. Maurer, I see you've signed up for this.
If I could have a word, please, first.
Please, yeah, absolutely.
Thanks. I think I know the answer, but I just want to confirm, maybe some of you know, with respect to the rounds that they anticipate. Is that consistent with the current operation?
Yeah, actually, based upon the number of rounds that they provided for us, 37,500, it's slightly lower than what they've had the last couple years out there.
Good, good,
That's
thank you.
pretty typical, I think, for a course, public course or whatever, so.
And that's one of the things they talked about that they'll monitor, because that has an impact on the experience at the course.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Anybody else? Mr. Maurer?
I remember the year when this golf course was proposed, and it was a loser from the start. And I remember discovering that there were 79 golf courses within 20 minutes of Dublin. whether that's, my guess is there might be even more this time. Also, as I recall, and I don't remember the details, and some of you might, there was a horrific water problem connected with this golf course, which had impact upon these.
That was long ago, and that was corrected.
It was corrected?
Yes.
Okay. Of course, this sounds like sour grapes. At that time, I had proposed that square mile become the Western Hemisphere center for Irish drama. And it had Dublin, the situation in Dublin is very comparable to that in Stratford, Ontario, where the Stratford Shakespeare Festival is, financially and otherwise. So, and the Stratford one, by the way, had then a $39 million annual budget. It drew not just from, of course, Stratford, it drew from the hemisphere, it drew from the North and South America. And that I thought was a tremendous possibility.
Very good.
So anyhow, you know, I can make personal disclosure here of my own golf history. I used to be what I guess would be called an avid golfer, which means a not good one, until I ran into Tiger Woods, and I said, that's the way I would like to play this game if I had the time.
We all would.
Yeah, okay. So I am skeptical about this. There are still at least 79 golf courses in the neighborhood, and period.
Very good, thank you. The economics on this particular situation is significantly different than the prior owner, so we thank you for your input. Ann?
Mr. Reiner?
Yes.
Mayor Keenan?
Yes.
Mr. Peterson? Ms. Janice Zerker? Yes. Vice Mayor Gerber?
Yes.
And Mr. Leckleyder?
Yes.
Resolution 22-14.
Authorizing the city manager to execute an amended lease agreement with GTN Corporation for lease of the Dublin Village Tavern.
I'll introduce it.
Michelle?
Good evening, members of council. This is an amendment to the existing lease, and this amendment establishes a new lease rate that recognizes the significant leasehold improvements that GTN Corporation has made to this property. The lease runs through February 28th of 2019. Staff is recommending passage of this resolution. I can answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, Michelle. I think we're all familiar and have had a chance to review this and read this lease. Council questions, discussion? Mr. Maurer?
A point of information. What does GTN mean in the title?
That would be the corporate name.
What's that?
It'd be the corporate name.
Yeah, but what do the letters stand for?
They don't have to stand for anything. That's just the corporate name. Okay, thank you. Mr. Finnerty? Mr. Ray Finnerty was to speak on this?
Oh, he was on for the golf.
Ah, okay, good. All right then, any other questions from council? If not, Ann?
Mr. Leckleyder?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Gerber?
Yes.
Mr. Peterson? Mayor Keenan?
Yes.
Mr. Reiner?
Yes.
Ms. Janice Zerker?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, under other? Ms. Leroy?
Thank you. I'm back now to seek approval to sell alcoholic beverages in Coffin Park during the Irish Festival, August 1st through 3rd of this year, and I can answer any questions you might have.
Council, questions? Okay, need a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Ann?
Ms. Janice Zerker?
Yes.
Mr. Peterson? Mr. Reiner?
Yes.
Mr. Leckleyder?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Gerber?
Yes.
Mayor Keenan?
Yes.
Thank you.
Staff comments?
The only comment is just to let council know that starting this week, you should see some scaffolding going up on the side of the building toward Emerald Parkway. We're doing window replacement and some other replacement of the wood along the building. So in case you see that, that's what's going on. And that's it.
Thank you, very good. Committee reports. John, I think you have a committee report for Community Development Committee?
Yeah, the Community Development Committee met on March the 7th and reviewed all the beautification applications for neighborhoods. The total amount of grant funds requested was 6 applicants, which was $22,682.51. We had, as you recall, approved and budgeted 32,000, so we didn't receive as many applicants as we thought we might. In synopsis, I'd say most of the applicants that Greg and Amy and I reviewed were really pretty much material, as in plant material, rather than structural applicants, but all were deemed worthy. So we're requesting that council approve Ballantrae for $49.71, Dunmere for $27.74, Wellington Place for $5,000, Llewellyn Farms for $3,000, River Highlands for $1937.51, and Park Place for $5,000.
And that's a motion.
That is a motion.
Is there a second? Second. Any further discussion or questions?
I'd just like to ask if, well, let me first of all, well, I'll ask the question first. Are any of these associations, neighborhoods, not forced and funded? Anybody know?
I think they were all forced and funded, but we'd have to confirm that to make sure.
Does anybody know whether we've ever, any association not forced and funded has ever made an application?
That I can't address.
What's he say?
Good evening.
Good evening.
I don't believe that Llewellyn Farms is forced and funded. I think they're a
I'm sorry?
Llewellyn Farms, they are a volunteer association, as was Dunmere, as I recall from the discussion at the meeting.
Dunmere is volunteer? Can we confirm that when you get a
Yes,
chance?
absolutely.
I would appreciate it. Thank you.
Sure.
I'd just like to thank the members of the committee for their time and effort in reviewing the applications and conducting the meeting and analyzing this and so forth. Appreciate it.
Yeah, there was one other item of business before we call for the vote, and that was that the Dublin Arts Council requested that they made a request to serve alcohol on their Scioto Parks Sunday and the Scioto Parks concerts, and it was voted on and was voted down. So I just wanted to pass that bit of information on to you. So it wasn't voted with a recommendation to go ahead and do it.
That was part of your committee reports?
Yes.
Or your review? Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Can I ask a quick
Yeah,
question,
absolutely.
Mike? Marcia, I was contacted by one of the homeowners associations in my ward about these grants. Is there any way, a mechanism to retroactively consider, they were not aware of this grant program, and they put in some hardscaping, and they contacted me. I sent around the application because I was surprised we didn't get more response. So I sent around the application. I said, hey, next year you might want to look into this. And I got a response from one president that said they had expended money on, I think it was lighting and some other architectural features. Is there any way they can retroactively go back, or is that just not something, since there was still money in the budget, you can't do
Yeah,
that?
it's prior to, so that it's reviewed prior to approval, and we've not had any in the past that's come after the fact.
What's our normal procedure on that? Do we send a letter out to all the,
Yes.
Yeah,
I
we
mean,
send
so there is
information.
notice.
Yeah, there's notice that's given, and it's out on our website for the
Talked about it at the
timing and
association.
how to proceed, and then staff will sit down and meet with the members of the homeowners association and go through the process so that they understand.
And that's what I explained to them, that it may be intimidating to look at the application and sort of just give up because it looks much of a daunting task, but with the assistance of staff, and they made it a very easy process to get through. I encourage them next year to look into it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I just wanted to comment that I had sent John an email on this. There seemed to be a conflict in the majority of them between what the homeowners association plantings that they were recommending that they wanted to do versus what the staff was saying. And so my email to John was that I was depending on him to solve this problem, since he's an expert and obviously he knows this business. But I don't know how this is ever reconciled. And I know that I have a major concern, not about this application, but about Park Place, that I think that's an example of an enormous frontage that the homeowners there end up being responsible for, that seems inconsistent to normal frontage that a homeowners association be typically. And if you look at their proposal, of course, the phases are extremely expensive because of the size of the acreage that they're responsible for. And yet, we only give them $5,000, you know, to offset that. So I think that's something that the committee in the future might want to work with staff on looking at least, and analyzing that whether there should be some other exceptions made when there's excessive acreage that our homeowners association is responsible for. Thank you.
Well, Mary Lee, I agree, and you'll remember, you know, that was when we were in that Road to WOW phase. And I'm not being critical of, you know, that effort, you know, but that's a significant burden to place on a homeowners association, you know, that was essentially imposed, you know, by the city, you know, because that was our policy at the time.
Yeah, and I know as a result of, I think it was one of the Westburys on Brand Road, the city looked at that several years back and determined that if the cost per acre for some of the maintenance and specifically mowing, if it was more than what was considered to be an expected or normal amount of acreage, that we did make adjustments. So if this is one that we need to take a look at to see if there's anything different about this entranceway that needs to be addressed, we can look at that. But we also look at the area and what the makeup of the area is. Some areas are lower maintenance than others, but we can take a look at Park
So you'll
Place.
get back to us with
We can
some
look at
information on that particular example she cited.
But I think the problem here, excuse me, John, I think the problem here was, and you probably know because you reviewed it, but it was the number of trees, and they were primarily one species, I believe. You know, and of course, we don't do that anymore, you know,
Right.
as a municipality. I mean, in terms of, you know, what we plant in
Right.
tree lawns and so
Right.
forth.
Yeah, they really, Marilee, were a very focused and dedicated bunch, and, you know, those people in particular realized that, you know, the enormity of the project they're going to be taking care of, and maybe we too should have, or staff or whoever, should have looked at that, because that was a cherry tree planting, masses and blocks, and as I said to the applicant, you know, it'd be great if we were in Washington, D.C., but we're not. So some of these species are on the borderline for our area and eventually have shorter lives just because of the number of pests that attack them and kill them. And they're very soft-wooded. So just something that the city will, before we ever approve of some of these zonings again, we got to take a little closer look at.
Well, on that one, I think that there also was that issue that what was approved at those, when it was originally zoned, isn't possible now, and yet the staff is saying, well, this isn't what was approved, what you want to do, and, you know, we need to do something with that kind of situation when we find that these specimens, you know, these species don't grow, et cetera. But I'm mostly concerned about the acreage you know, what they're responsible for, and the onus that it puts on every homeowner there. Thank you.
Okay. So we have a motion on the floor. We have a second.
Yes.
Ann, you want to call the vote?
Mr. Lucklider?
Yes.
Mr. Reiner?
Yes.
Mayor Keenan?
Yes.
Ms. Janice Zerker?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Gerber?
Yes.
Mr. Peterson?
Okay, and I presume that brings us to roundtable. Greg, you want to start us off? Marilee?
Yes, had a couple of meetings in the last week. MORPS's board met, and I have both the agenda that Ann keeps and the materials that if anybody cares to review it, and also the legislative planning, the legislative update, which I believe we're emailing to all the council members now. You can see that MORPS is very active legislatively, and we're going to be continuing to be active, as there are quite a few bills in the legislature that would impact our communities that are members of MORPSI. Same is true of OML. On the OML board, the Ohio Municipal League, we had a meeting Friday, and all of the materials are here for your review. And I've given you actually a copy in front of you, I had Ann make, of some of the issues that they lifted up And so there are 3 bills that specifically, I believe we've had some discussion about, but we don't need to have any tonight, but the House Bill 277, 198, and 289, and the TIFs and the JEDCs and others that we might want to just be paying close attention to, and our people that follow this legislation perhaps could bring us some updated information on that. Thank you.
Very good, thank you.
Oh, I had a couple just short things, sorry.
Go ahead.
Those were just the meetings I went to, you know?
do it at the end of round.
Yeah, I know, that I
Why don't you carry
forget,
on?
you know. Oh, I was just curious as to the Brand Road Kaufman intersection, which is just terrific, and like I don't know what happened to that traffic, you know, I'm still always trying to figure out, once we open new roads, what happened to all the traffic? But when will the landscaping and all of those fences and everything be taken down?
They'll start working on that hopefully in April, and it's weather dependent. But the goal is to get that completed as soon as we can, both that project as well as the multi-use path or shared use path further to the west.
Yeah, they were out there working on that today. And then I had a question about the historic, down in historic Dublin from Rings Road down to the historic area, and driving there today. I was curious as to the bike path or the multi-purpose path that we're putting in. Are we moving the stone wall?
Some of the walls will be relocated.
And then there seems to be like tall grass, or it was unclear to me whether it was brush or something really substantial that was behind those stone walls.
Yeah, in some cases, it's brush, invasive species, and then in other cases, it's plant material that the property owner has planted, and that's part of the appraisal process that we look at what's being impacted.
And we'll be reusing those stone that was there, I presume, as we put it back up. That's ones that are viable, at least.
And that, I'll have to bring back information, I'm not sure on that. And some of it, too, even if that's the plan, it would depend upon the condition that it's in.
Right. Uh-oh, you have somebody that
Go
wants
ahead.
to talk on it.
Briefly.
Actually, that was a discussion with the property owners, and the short answer to that question is no on the reuse of the stone. Only because of its weathered state that talked to the mason that we have a lot of confidence in, and he really felt that it'd be very difficult to work with.
Yeah,
and
there's some
recreate the
examples of
wall.
ones that they've recently done, you can tell, and it's amazing what they do with the dry stone, so, thank you.
So will the stone, since it's been there for such a long period of time, will it be available for citizens to purchase or donate or take, or?
Well, I think that, go ahead, Sarah.
We've advised property owners that our intentions are to not keep the stone. The stone becomes a property of the general contractor as part of the debris removed from the site. So if an individual property owner happens to need a few stones for walls somewhere else on their property, we would not know the difference, but we wouldn't expect them to go out and take down their entire wall prior to our contractor getting there.
Thank you.
Close your ears there, Chief. Okay. Is that everything? Tim?
Thank you. Once again, this year I had the opportunity to participate in our Dublin Business Appreciation Day. It was Friday, March 14th, and just had a great time, as I always do. And my team visited Express Scripts, IGS Energy, and Tim Hortons, and you know, all of the businesses, as they are every year, were thrilled to see us. And you know, but I have just as good a time as you know, the employees. It's great, and I highly recommend it to other council members if you have the opportunity to do it in the future. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Tim. John?
I just want to, I heard tonight from Sarah Ott, and I want to congratulate her for her initiative and the fight it took to have Dublin placed on the 16133 architecture for the freeway, and in the old style lettering that is complementary to our community. So thank you for doing that and getting that done. We weren't really sure you were going to be able to do that, but looking at the opposition. But so again, congratulations. Then a question for Marcia. The grant that Shawnee Hills received for the improvement of the road. Where are we with that? What does it take to get that implemented?
We're in the process of talking with property owners for the right-of-way that's needed, and the project's continuing to move forward. And we would anticipate that sometime after July, there'll be legislation to award a contract for the project. So we plan on moving forward, and it's continuing to move forward as we speak.
This year?
Yes.
Good.
You know, and that's one of these things where, again, it's just personal initiative. Sometimes these things, we have these social gatherings with these adjoining, abutting municipalities and territories, and sometimes you sit there and say, you know, we're not really getting anything accomplished, but this is one of these where we had a chance to talk to Mayor Monahan from Shawnee Hills, and then Marcia set up a meeting, and really they didn't have the monies to make those improvements. And during the course of that meeting, Marcia volunteered the grant writing abilities of our staff to help assist them get that grant written and get the job done. So,
And Shawnee Hills also works with a grant writer that they've used that's been very good and resulted in a lot of success for other grants that they've submitted. So they did the bulk of the work, and we did review.
yeah,
on the
so
grant.
congratulations on that. It was, again, something that's been a thorn in our sides for
Long time.
30 years, and to get that thing improved is going to be fantastic. So,
Yeah, we're looking forward
Make
to
a big difference up in that part of the world.
Mm-hmm.
Rush hours.
oh,
especially,
yeah.
so.
Thank you.
Thank you, John.
That's it.
Rick?
Yeah, thanks, Mike. First off, John, we talked about CSAC, and they need more assignments, and I appreciate you volunteering your subcommittee to come up with some projects. So you can kind of report back to the rest of us in the next 30 days. I know we've appointed 5 people, so I know they're going to be anxious to get to work. So.
I know that Mr. Peterson and Ms. Saleh are very excited about this project, and we're going to come up with all kinds of interesting programs for community development that they can participate in, and that we're looking for their input. And I think it's going to be a real productive relationship. So thank you.
Yeah, looking forward to it. Also, admin committee, we have 4 groups in which to pass out oaths. I think it's on our calendar. We can share emails back and forth. They're in April. There's the 3rd of April, 8th, 23rd, and 24th. So we'll share emails here in the next week or so and get that on our calendars. Next, we have tentatively scheduled for May 14th, board commission recognition event, location to be determined. So we'll put some ideas and report back with respect to that. And the last item that I have is on your desk, there is it's patriotic in Dublin. And what this report, I believe this came as a result of my suggesting back in October that maybe there's some things the city could do to facilitate some of the veteran events, not certainly to take them over, but I want to emphasize facilitate, and also to keep this of a Dublin nature, recognizing veterans here in Dublin, that sort of thing. Staff has put together a rather complete report, for lack of a better word. There's some dollar figures with that. The purpose is not to go through this evening. This is the kitchen sink A to Z. It doesn't is a recommendation at all. It's simply to kind of spur further thought and comments, and maybe at the next council meeting we can kind of take this up. My recommendation would be, frankly, that we kind of look at a couple of these things. Memorial Day is coming up, and again, I want to emphasize we are not taking the place of any veterans group that's already participating whatsoever. This is merely to kind of facilitate a little bit more on our end. So
there's a more complete packet that has the same cover sheet on it, the Patriotic in Dublin, that has some costs associated with it. So
yeah.
I'd encourage everybody to take a look at that over the next week or so, and in our next meeting, we can get into a little more detail. Anything else?
No, that's all.
Okay, thank you. I, too, was involved in the Dublin Business Appreciation Day with Tim, and it was a lot of fun. We had probably more fun than the groups and called on 3 or 4 businesses. There were 3 teams that went out with economic development. I was with Colleen and some of her colleagues, and I appreciate that. Also, later that day, I did the best legs in a kilt contest at the Brazen Head, and you'll all be pleased to know that Councilman Peterson represented us quite well. He didn't get the nod, but he had really good-looking legs. So we appreciate that. The parade went well. We had the Grand Leprechaun Lunch where Michael Blackwell was given the shillelagh, and the weather was terrific. We appreciate staff and all the work that was put on by the service employees, police who made that special event a success. John Reiner, Marilee, Tim, and myself, Marcia, Dana, all attended the Ohio University groundbreaking. That would have been on March 19th. It was a very cold and blustery day. I mean, it was raw. Fortunately, they had a tent set up. There were a number of speakers. President McDavis from OU. There was we heard from Pam Benoit, the executive vice president and provost. Dr. Randy Leedy, Dean of College of Health and Services and Professions, and Bob White Jr. from Daimler. Daimler Corporation is going to be doing the building, and we've had a lot of experience with them. They do a nice job. So very well done. A lot of nice words. Kind of warmed up the event with a lot of thank yous to Dublin from that group, and we do appreciate them being here as well. Other than that, I think that's everything. We'll stand adjourned.
Mayor, one other item, just.
Too late. Go ahead.
I should have reminded that on April 7th, we have a scheduled workshop with council to talk. The library representatives are coming to update us on their project. And also the other item that we want to include or start the discussion on is some of the issues related to the streetscapes in the Bridge Street District, to start looking at what we want the streets to look like. So we'll have an introduction of that information.
So put your thinking caps on, and then I noted on my calendar that library meeting was scheduled for 6 o'clock. I got that somewhere, so. I don't know if that's right or not, but somebody was going to check on it.
Yeah, we'll check.
You want to send an email out, Ann, so we can all make sure we're on the same page?
Yeah.
Hey, Mike, I just have one more thing. And,
Yeah, sure.
The Arts Council would kill me if I didn't get a plug in for the garden party on the 2nd, which is a wonderful affair. Most of you attended. No, May the 2nd. This is an early advertisement for that particular event. But they would like to sell out all the tickets this year, and would like to see some additional support. And then Tim and I had the pleasure of watching the girls' basketball team in the state finals. They did a fantastic job. It was a heartbreaker to make it down to the last 2 games. And that Emily Sabo, who's a sophomore, is one heck of a 3-shot shooter. But it was a heartbreaker for the girls, but congratulations anyway.
They had a great year.
Yep.
So thank you. All right, thank you, everybody.